Today, we're flying on what is considered to be one of the best airlines in Europe, Air France. We'll be flying on their A350-900 in their newest business class for 8 hours and 15 minutes from Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport to Toronto Pearson Airport. Not only will we check out the absolutely massive seat, we'll also discover that this aircraft has what is probably the best feature I have ever seen on an airplane. But first, our trip starts off here at the Air France lounge at none other than Paris' Charles de Gaulle Airport. And what a lounge it is! It is absolutely stunning with its statement staircase, floor-to-ceiling windows with incredible views of the tarmac, and plenty of eats and drinks. There's also a clearance spa with complimentary treatments. Just try not to fly on a Wednesday, as that is the only day when the lounge spa is closed. And since I was raised by immigrant parents, I gotta get my money's worth by getting any sort of complimentary treatment in. Luckily, I wasn't here on a Wednesday and can attest that it is super relaxing. They don't allow for any filming during the treatments, but trust me, it was a great treat pre-flight. After the spa treatment, I decided to check out their washrooms and showers. They're clean and modern, and there's nothing like a shower to make you feel fresh right before a long flight. As much as I love a good lounge, it's now time for us to get to the gate so that we can board. Plus, I want to see if I can get a quick look at the plane first. And the view of the plane will have to wait today because it turns out we are boarding by bus today across the tarmac to our plane. I never like boarding by bus as I find it gets really chaotic with everyone trying to jam in all at once like cattle. It's like people feel like the plane's gonna leave without them if they're not on the bus first. The one huge benefit of boarding by bus, though, is that you do get views of the plane up close like this. And this. What a beauty of an aircraft. Now let's get on board, shall we? Air France's A350-900 has 48 Stylia Opera business class seats that are arranged in a 1-to-1 configuration. There are 32 business class seats in the main cabin from rows 1 through 8 and 16 business class seats in a mini cabin in rows 10 to 14. There is no row 13 for what I'm assuming is superstitious reasons. A bit silly if you ask me though. Let me know if you're superstitious like that too, or if you also think it's kind of silly like I do. Sorry, row 14, I hate to break it to you, but you're really in row 13 no matter what that label says. The universe knows the truth. For this flight, you and me were seated in 1A, and it is absolutely unreal. Now, most bulkhead seats have slightly more room, but this is definitely beyond that. This is definitely not your standard bulkhead seat. Just take a look at this footwell. It's more like its own seat rather than a footwell. It's like having a small ottoman in your cabin. In fact, this footwell is so large that you can actually fit an entire person in it. This seat is also pretty tech-savvy with both a USB-A and USB-C port, as well as a universal power port at the edge of the side table. There's also wireless charging, which I loved. No more tangled cables, and it seemed to work great for my phone. Also exclusive to the bulkhead seats, you have this mini closet tucked away into the wall here where you can hang up your coat. Honestly, the design of this was so seamless, I didn't even realize that this was a closet at first. In the non-bulkhead standard business class seats, you'll just have a coat hook, not a closet like this. In the storage compartment, there's a mirror, a bottle of Evian water, as well as the headphones. And instead of a standard remote control, you have this remote control tablet where you can adjust the seats and the lighting. The remote control tablet does pop out to make it easier to use, which is especially nice since you could also use it to control the IFE. This is pretty key because this seat is so large you can't even reach the IFE when you're seated. This is definitely a great problem to have. If you're more old school though and prefer not to use a tablet, you can also control your seat and lights using these buttons at the edge of the side table. As for the tray table, it does pop out from the side table. And finally, the last bulkhead seat exclusive feature is this storage drawer. It's cleverly tucked underneath the footwell and it can fit so many of your personal belongings. As someone that likes to have things close at hand during the flight, this was a huge plus for me, and you won't find the storage drawer in the regular non-bulkhead business class seats. Okay, so initial first impressions, I am seriously so impressed. The cabin looks great, but this seat is massive. It feels more like a first class seat than a business class seat. Granted, of course, I am in the bulkhead, which is why I have this massive space. The regular seats, which are still nice, but definitely not as large as this one is. And the crazy thing is that it didn't cost any extra to book this seat. And when I booked it, There was actually only about 3 business class seats left, and this was one of them. I am shocked that nobody chose this seat. So definitely try and get a seat in the bulkhead if you can to get this massive seat. The center ones also have, the massive footwell as well. You can kind of see from my neighbor over here has the big footwell. After being served a welcome drink and given a hot towel, it's time to get our seatbelts on so that we can watch the safety video and take off.
Please make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened.
Nous recommandons de la maintenir attachée de façon visible lorsque vous êtes assis à votre siège.
We recommend that you keep your
Shortly after takeoff, it's now time for lunch. The starters and the appetizers arrive first. We get some veggies with mint, used cheese, and olives. There's also some shrimp with orange honey vinaigrette, and there is also a boring but healthy side salad. And because this is Air France, we have some excellent bread, but of course one of my favorite things ever, French butter. Is there anything better than French butter? It's truly elite. Next came the main. I got the veal shank with tomato broth on top of pasta with grilled cheese topping. Not gonna lie, this looked like a really ugly slice of lasagna, but it did taste really good, so it's gonna be a thumbs up for me, despite the fact that it was really ugly. Finally, dessert comes, and we're given both a cheese platter and a choice of sweets. The coconut lime mango slice looks impressive, but since I'm allergic to coconut, I decide to go for the ice cream instead. Okay, so they are so unbelievably nice here. The FA, she saw that I was struggling to decide between the ice cream and the sorbet flavors, and she was like, you could have more than one if you want. So I got 2. I got a vanilla and a strawberry, and then I also got a glass of champagne, because what's dessert without champagne? And speaking of champagne, here's a quick look at the drink menus, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Feel free to pause the video if you want to read it in detail. Alright, now let's quickly check out some goodies before I show you one of the best features I have ever seen on a plane. There are slippers, of course, which I already put on earlier in the flight. Air France always has a lovely amenity kit that's stocked with Clarins creams, a dental kit, eye masks, socks, earplugs, and my personal favorite, an Air France pen. Okay, it's now time for me to show you one of the best features I've ever seen on a plane. No, it's not the toilet, even though that is super important to have. It's also not this magnified mirror ring light situation they have going on here, although this is perfect for people who are cringy and narcissistic enough to make a YouTube video. One of the best things I've seen on a plane is this. Yes, a garbage can. But not just any ordinary garbage, this is an automatic garbage. As a germaphobe, this is genius. I've never seen this on any other plane before, but they all need to have this now. Alright, now let's put our seats into lie flat mode. Air France gives out a blanket and a pillow, but no mattress topper sadly. I think that a mattress topper would help out a lot. I mean, even United gives out mattress toppers these days, which is saying something. And since this flight takes place entirely during the daytime, here's some footage of me pretending to sleep just so that you'll have an idea of how much space there is. It's a lot of space, by the way. In fact, there is so much space my arms can't even touch both ends. Or 6 feet 7 inches if you want to be more exact. The massive footwell in this bulkhead seat also means that you won't have any cramped feet. Now let's talk about the IFE, which is 18.5 inches. Now our tablet remote control for the IFE was a good idea in theory, but I did find it to be really laggy. In fact, it was so laggy, I actually found it easier just to lean over and press the screen directly instead. As for the movie selection, it's pretty good, although I can't exactly say the same for the TV shows, as the TV shows only had about 2 to 3 episodes, so that's definitely a bummer. Now let's talk about the headphones. I would say that these were pretty good, but not necessarily great. Partway through the flight, the FAs often stop by offering snacks. I highly recommend the dark chocolate bar as well as the savory tomato shortbread. These were so good. I wish I had asked for more, but I also didn't want the FAs to have to shovel me off this plane. As for the Wi-Fi, it unfortunately didn't work, although Air France was nice enough to send me a text beforehand letting me know. It would have been nice if someone had also texted me about my ex beforehand because he was also broken and not working, kind of like this Wi-Fi. About an hour before landing, it's now time for a pre-departure meal, or light snack as they call it on the menu. It was a puff pastry brioche with garlic herb curd cheese, julienne vegetables, and more used milk cheese. It basically tasted like cottage cheese and vegetables on a brioche, not terrible, but also a little underwhelming. For dessert, there was grapefruit slices and a financier cake that tasted like pure butter. Not that I'm complaining, we all know how much I love that French butter. And as we're about to land, let's talk about how much all this cost. Normally, a one-way flight from Paris to Toronto in business class would have cost around $7,000 US, but I was able to book this with 50,000 KLM Air France Flying Blue points and $402 in taxes and fees.
And it still blows my mind that there is no extra cost for this bulkhead seat. I am surprised nobody booked it. So if you are taking this flight, make sure you grab the bulkhead. That is row 1 where I am sitting, or in row 10 if you're sitting in the mini cabin.
Overall, this flight was pretty incredible, but if I'm being honest, I feel like it's mostly because I had one of the amazing bulkhead seats. I feel like if I was sitting in one of the standard business class seats, it probably would still be nice, but just not mind-blowing like the bulkhead seats are. But I will say, if you do snag the bulkhead, it's definitely one of the best business class seats in Europe, and dare I say that it can maybe even compete with some of the best business class seats in the world, like ANA's The Room, which has always been a favorite of mine. Très chic, Air France, and well done with this one. Anyways, thanks for joining me on board today as always, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this one.